part 3 of Freddy vs. Jason, 2003.
In-depth
In-depth horror discussion.
We left off with the kegger and the corn.
We left off with the Everclear kid and the other guy, so he gets his head smashed around anyways. So
they flip his head around. That kills. It's one of the best kills in the movie.
No, the best
Gotta
kill
love
is
it
right
as a
after
horror
that.
fan.
No, the best kill is this one. Right
Oh
after
yeah,
that.
two of the best kills in the movie.
The fat kid's running to the party now out of the corn, and freaking Jason's on fire right behind him, and he throws the knife. Jason throws the knife, and it goes right through him. It's one of the tightest horror shots ever, because it goes through his chest.
He's been using that machete since 1980.
It goes
so
through
it's
his
03,
chest.
so he's a magician.
And the machete's on fire, and he spits out the blood right when it cuts him, right when it goes through him. He's like, oh, and it's like a slow motion. It's so dope.
They shot this movie just perfect, really.
Definitely one of the tightest horror kills ever. Alright.
No, then he starts, so he gets right in the middle of the dance floor, and all the extras start screaming, running away, of course, and he's just slicing random people at the bar.
He sliced up three teenage students. He kills them.
His buzz is killing people.
He slashes the one kid and then another kid.
Doesn't take any of their beers.
And then another kid's right there.
Killing for no reason.
Another kid's at like the truck right there at the back of the truck, and there's a keg. And freaking Jason slashes him and hits the keg, and the keg all over him.
And extinguishes the fire. All while he was on fire, he's swatting at these people.
Yeah, shit's hilarious. And then it cuts to the blue van of freaking, so Jay, the weed smoker, got in the van, and then freaking the smart kid, Leonardman, and then freaking the main characters all in the blue van driving
They all
away.
leave in the van.
They're like, what the fuck? And they're talking about the dream.
And the girl was like, that's not the guy from my dream. And they're like, who gives a shit? That psycho was real. And then the stoner kid was just like...
he's like, who gives a fuck, dude? That goalie was pissed about something.
Man, that goalie was pissed about something.
It was freaking hilarious.
So he's just like, just drop me off. So he drops them all off. They don't really show that.
Yeah, they don't show it. It just cuts, and it's like the black chick, like, alright, call me later. Anyway, so then it cuts, and it's freaking Lori and her boyfriend in the van talking.
In her driveway.
Like, just sum it up, he's just like, yeah, I saw your dad kill your mom. That's why I was there. But then right when he tells the story, freaking the dad shows up, and he's like, get out of the van. And it's a pretty good jump scare.
And it starts raining hardcore.
And he's like, yeah, like, I give a shit anyways. He's like, because you're going back to the psych ward. And he's like, yeah, like, I give a shit. And it's hilarious. And then Lori runs in through the front door.
This shot is just amazing. And the storm's going off.
No, this part's
and
really
the door's
amazing.
Open.
No, because when the dad and Lori's at the top of the stairs.
She's all wet, and you can see through her freaking top, and you're like, oh, 3's smoking hot.
And you're like, wow.
Even though she's got the sif.
Anyway, so go on. So she's at the top of the stairs, and she's talking down to her dad, and her dad's like, he's like,
did mom die in a car accident?
He's like, no. Yes, she did.
Yes. Yeah, because he's trying to cover it up. They make you believe that he might be in on something.
And I love this scene in the movie because this is where the theme changes to the dark part. Because he starts coming up and he's like,
awesome, intense,
and he's like, Lori,
horror feel.
He's like, you just been through a lot. Let me give you some pills, and you can go to sleep.
And he starts shaking them like an
she's
old
like,
geezer.
I don't want pills, and she goes out the window and goes down. And it's really dope.
Pills.
It's a really dope feeling. The way they switched the tone of the movie right there to dark. With the dad being
So then Lori runs away, and then
she
starts walking down the line of bushes, and it's like hypnocil breath out of nowhere.
Yeah, her boyfriend with hypnocil breath shows up, and it's a jump scare. And she's like, oh. So then they go back to freaking get his friend.
Yeah, so they go back to meet up with the curly-haired guy.
And it cuts back to him, and he's at his crib, reading a book.
And they're talking. They're like, yeah, we can't trust any adults.
Yeah, even though they're like 30 themselves.
No, so they show up at... No, and then it cuts back...
Yeah, it cuts to him, and he's looking at a picture of his family. And freaking, then he starts seeing the steam coming out of the bathroom, and he's like, oh shit. He's like, I'm not sleeping. And he goes, checks it out, and there's nothing in there. So he goes to the freaking medicine cabinet to get a wake aid.
It's called wake aid. It's hilarious.
It's like so generic wake aid. And then freaking it falls down the drain.
They're like, we don't want a brand name to sponsor, so we'll just make up some wake aid.
It's a tight freaking camera shot where the wake aid's going down the freaking tube of the drain.
No, he sees his brother, and it's like the kid who played, what's his name, the bully in A Christmas Story.
With the yellow eyes. No, yeah, so he turns around.
He had yellow eyes.
And his brother comes up out of the tub, out of the blood, and he's like...
Oh, this scene's awesome,
and it's Freddy talking, and he's just like... He's like, oh, nobody...
He's like, I can't stop that hockey puck.
Yeah, he's talking about Jason. He's like, yep, I came back to kill people.
And
he's
it's
like,
a bunch
Jason's
of
taking
hardcore
Freddy lines.
Freddy prop CGI throwback from the first one.
Oh yeah, where he's like, somebody wake me up, and he's like, oh, got the things on his leg, hold him to the floor.
And while this is happening, they show up at the house finally.
No, they show up at the window. They can't get in.
Then he starts spontaneously human combusts out of nowhere, like it's an unsolved mystery.
He's like, I want you to send a little message for me. He's like, he won't, and then he sets him on fire. And then on his back, it's like Freddy's back, all freaking burnt in. It's all tight. It's all bloody.
And then bear with us on this. It moves at a good pace, so it keeps on cutting to scenes. So it cuts back to the freaking...
At Letterman's house. They go to Letterman's house.
No, it cuts back to the police station.
Before that.
And the rookie cop's there, and he's
the rookie cop's like, hey, I think I got a lead on this Jason
I've been doing some research on the hockey mask killer. It's hilarious. This guy's a hilarious actor. He hasn't even been in shit, really, since, like, 03, 04.
Nah, and then the chief is just like... He's like, rookie, we already got it. He's like, we already know who this killer is.
He's like, we've stopped him before. We can do it again. It's badass. The sheriff's a pretty good actor, too. Pretty good acting in this movie. And he's just like, no. And then the rookie cop's like, I think we have a copycat killer of the Jason Voorhees Crystal Lake Killer. It's some hilarious lines. So then,
and he's like, yep.
Then the sheriff cuts off the cop, and he doesn't want to think about
evidence.
He cuts him out of the case. He's like, no. So
he's
then,
like, I'll lock you up myself. You don't mention that name.
So he's pissed. So he leaves, and he goes to find the kids. Someone that would believe him. He's like, who will believe me? Oh, the 17-year-olds.
Oh yeah, this is another plot hole because it cuts.
Kids have herpes,
this is where it cuts to the kids after that, and they're at the freaking Letterman's house.
Yeah,
and
the main cast hanging out.
No, and the cop wouldn't even freaking known to. He's like, I'll look for the Scooby van. That's his mindset, and he finds the Scooby van. He's like,
town.
And he's like, don't. No, and it starts off with the kid, and they're talking. They're like talking about Freddy and stuff like that. And then the kid like has Jay has his freaking weed like an eighth like all shake
on a magazine on a Fangoria.
And the cop just walks into the house and he's like, his name's Jason Voorhees. And they're like, whoa, shit, man, hey. And he like folds the magazine, puts it down, and he like waves in the air to like get the smoke out. Even though it's like
what were some of the lines you said? I told you to write down the lines that he said right there. Of course you didn't.
No, I'm looking.
Mr. Creepshow's got dip breath right now. Skull apple chew. He's pathetic. Alright, so the main cast is hanging out and they're talking about the power of Freddy's fear.
Yeah.
Going over that.
First the cop sits down and tells the whole story of Jason. But anyways. Yeah, no, and then it cuts to the chick and she's on the couch.
And he was like, who is that guy? No, and he's like, that's the legend of his name is Jason Voorhees as he walks in.
And she's like, forget.
No, and he tells the legend, and he introduced that cast to the story of Jason because they don't know who the hockey mask killer is because they're from Springwood. And he's like, legend has it Jason returned from the grave to punish whoever showed up at Camp Crystal Lake. And you're like, oh shit.
No, and he's like, but I think no. The cop says, I think this is a lookalike. And then Letterman's like, no, I seen him. This is definitely the real Jason. And then the weed kid's just like. Yeah, well,
he's like, I'm an 80s kid. I saw all the Friday the 13th.
He's like, you better think out of your little fucking reality box because somebody's breaking the fucking reality rules.
Yeah.
It's freaking hilarious. Anyway, so then it cuts to the chick on the couch and Lori's like, hey, wait, Jason died by water and Freddy by fire. How can we use that?
And he's just like, that doesn't make sense. The cabin, and he's just like, and so the cast connects the two together. He's just like, yeah. Freddy must have woken up Jason to remind the
so they
kids.
They get what's going on, and then what's his name?
And he's just like anything is possible. You just don't get it, man.
Yeah, and then he's like, all right, yeah, we need something like a virgin, like sacrifice. The cops just sacrifice.
No,
and then he's like, yeah, we need like a virgin. And then they're all looking at Letterman. And he's like, don't look at me. He's like, it still counts if you pay for it.
Yeah, he paid for it on an online transaction with a prostitute, or he went to Ipsy and picked up a hooker. I don't know. You tell me.
Anyways, so this is a dream though, because Lori falls asleep on the couch right here. It kicks into a dream, and freaking, they're like, let's tie the bitch up, and freaking they all get up to tie up Lori.
No, so anyway, they're like, what'd you have at the hospital? And he's just like, we took Hypnosil.
Yeah, we got any drugs?
He's just
we
like,
didn't have any
and he's like,
there.
we need that shit. And so they go to the internet at Linderman's, and they're like, they're looking up Hypnosil on Wikipedia.
Oh man, it's not even
03.
approved by the FDA. Holy shit.
And he's like, Hypnosil, an experimental drug. And it's like the homepage of Wikipedia. No, so then they go to so then they do a plan to break into the asylum.
Which is retired because in real life it's another plot hole. No, they show up there, and then freaking this is another plot hole because Jason shows up there, and you're like, what did he do? Freaking drive there?
I know, they make you picture that, like
so
Michael Myers style.
They show up there and they're going through the psych ward, and then
you're
also,
like Michael Myers in H2O when he steals like the 30s pickup and like drives to like kill Laurie
what
Strode.
are we, Myers fan 25? We just randomly talk about Halloween. Anyways,
randomly talk about H2O.
No, anyways, and then it cuts to the guard. Like hearing the noises of Jason trying to bust in.
Total actor.
So he's got the gun and he's like coming up to the door. But then it cuts back.
Okay,
to,
so like the asylum's like totally abandoned basically, even though when they were there the first time, they
There's a
showed
whole
all
bunch
these
of guards.
guards. That's a plot hole up the hole.
Yeah, it's another plot hole. But anyways, so then it cuts back
Nate
to
Dunning's
the cop,
hole.
and he's walking through with Jay, and then freaking
And Nate Dunning's
and
butt cheeks.
Letterman.
If you're out there, what a
No, and then they're talking to Letterman, the cop, and then the cop keeps on moving on, and then freaking Jay's like, "Hey man, take a little Jay break."
and he's just like, "No, dude, there's a cop here."
No, man, he's a freaking cop.
He's like, "What is he gonna do? Arrest us? Arrest our asses?"
He's like, "We're only at a freaking psych ward. Let's smoke a J. We're only trying to get some hypnosis."
And this is one of the random parts. No, if anyone hates on this, they'll mention this part. Like, oh, what's up with the centipede? That was like a sci-fi movie part. I'll give them that.
No,
that
so
part
it
was
cuts to the
stupid.
kid. All right. So it cuts to the kids.
CGI,
No, it cuts
like,
to like
centipede.
Lori and the boyfriend and the black chick.
No, and the
it's
centipede
them-
like hits the ball.
Not yet
remember?
though. Not yet. It cuts to them going through, and it's all the kids like under asleep from the hypnosil.
Yeah, it keeps on coming back and
And
forth.
then it cuts back to him with the bong. He obviously the freaking kid who smoked. He fell asleep, and he sees a centipede with the bong. And he's like, "What the?" And he follows him. And then it cuts back to the kids, and they're like, "Yeah, too much hypnosil." And then,
Yeah,
and
it
then-
showed a bunch of patients that were in comas because it was just like, it says right here on the form, too much hypnosil in his Jason Ritter voice. And then they show up and then they're in the control room, Linderman and the cop. And Jason shows up in the control room perfectly out of nowhere. This is a total plot hole. What the hell is Jason even doing in the asylum?
Jason
Makes no
slashes
sense.
like one of the freaking like electrical things, gets all electrocuted, and the cop dies. And then
Yeah, that
freaking-
kill was pretty tight.
Then Letterman runs over to find the freaking stoner kids, and he sees them pouring down the hypnosil.
And he screams like a
No,
girl.
and before this though, freaking
No, he picks up a gun and he's in the control room with Jason. It just cuts. They're like, I don't know.
No, he runs away. But anyways, no, it cuts back. Before that though, it cuts to freaking the weed kid, and he's like, "Oh man, the hypnosil." He's like, "I can't throw this away.
Oh, we need this stuff,
We
man.
need this stuff, man." It's hilarious. And freaking the centipede goes through his mouth and then takes him over, even though it's Freddy. But anyway, so then he's pouring down the drain, and then freaking Letterman comes up and he's like, "No!" He's like, "Stop! We need that, dude."
Yeah, Freddy possesses him, takes control of his soul.
So then they're running out because they're scared as hell. They meet up with the boyfriend and the girlfriend.
And then out of nowhere, so he takes control of him. So Freddy like fills like 2 tranquilizer syringes
Yeah,
to
so they're
stop
running
to
out.
do it on Jason. So
They're running
Jason
out.
doesn't kill all the people because Freddy wants him.
They're running out, and he's standing in the hallway, and they're like, "Dude, come on!" And he's like, "Dude, we gotta go. He's coming." And then he's just
So
like,
Freddy and Jason start having beef.
"Okay."
because-
Anyways, no. So freaking, they're running out, and he's standing in the hallway, and they're like, "Dude, come on!" And he's like, "No." He's like, "I got this, bitch." And it's like the funniest thing ever. And he's like, "What?" And then they freaking run, and then Jason starts coming at him, and he freaking stabs him with the freaking syringes and puts him under. But then he cuts him right in half.
That kill's awesome.
It's real tight footage. Cuts him right in half. Real good effects.
So that makes Jason fall asleep.
Yeah, he falls. No,
Here's
no.
another-
Letterman comes around the corner. And he's like, "Fuck!" And he's gonna
He's
shoot
about
him.
to shoot him, but
He's
then
shooting
he
with the gun,
falls
then he
down.
falls back, and it's hilarious. It's good, funny one. All right, we'll go to part 4 here. We'll sum this part up.
Yeah, so Jason falls asleep. This is another plot hole that I was gonna say is they take his dead body and
Yeah,
like
they,
wheel it into the
They like put him in the
van.
trunk. They put him in the van, even though he weighs like 290.
even though he weighs like
And they
390.
and they picked up the machete and threw it in there on top of him. They brought the machete. They're like, "All right, let's go to Camp Crystal Lake."
Alright, and then this is where I'm gonna introduce this and we're gonna go to part 4. Jason enters Freddy's world for the first time and it's round 1.
All right,
Freddy
so
versus
go to part
Jason.
4, Freddy vs. Jason, 2003, in-depth horror discussion.